Welcome to the Jazz Notes podcast. I'm Ben Anderson.
I'm Chandler Holt.
We are recording this on December 1st.
Yes.
Happy December. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Only one podcast last week. We'll be back to doing 2 a week, though, coming up with another one coming up on Thursday. But as we like to do every Monday, we'll start out with the news, the games that were over the last week, and then we will wrap up after the break with your mailbag. And as always, we get a lot of mailbag questions, so excited to get to those, including some unique ones today. So excited to address those. But let's start with whatever bit of news we have with the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, one small bit of weekly news with the new NBA Cup schedule. Teams that don't make it further into the tournament bracket or basically past the group stage, They get consolation games added to their schedule to reach 82 once again. Those 2 games for the Jazz are at Memphis on December 12th and then hosting the Dallas Mavericks December 15th. Especially versus Dallas, that's a winnable game at Memphis. Also, Memphis isn't having the best year. A lot of drama, especially going on with Ja Morant. Will he still be on the team come after the trade deadline in February? So it's not like the Jazz got added OKC and Houston, 2 games that they could win potentially.
Yes. The question is, do they want to?
Yes.
And I do think that's rapidly becoming a question because the Jazz, even though included in what we will talk about coming up here momentarily, did just beat Sacramento. They're not playing great.
Yep.
They've lost a lot of games. Now they're sitting at 6 wins. And again, I know there was panic all around. Everyone, a lot of Jazz fans I've heard were like, some of these teams are on pace for 9 wins, man. I don't know. They're going to win more than 9 games. Like, Indiana's going to win more than 9 games. The Wizards, maybe not. But the Hornets are going to win more than 11 games. All these teams get up to 19, 20, 21, 22 wins. All of these teams do. And then these truly atrocious teams. And look, I know the Clippers are a mess and have fewer wins than the Jazz. Like, the Clippers are going to win more games than the Jazz this year. They don't have their own pick. There's no reason to lose. It's actually from that perspective, which I hate to fall into this trap because it's what I did all of January on last year. It's like other teams are going to win games. Other bad teams are going to win games, not just the Jazz. And in fact, as we talked about a lot a week ago, you look at their schedule now between now and Christmas, and then you add these 2 games. Like Dallas is playing a little bit better lately. Cooper Flagg had his first huge game, 35 points. Memphis is figuring it out. They're a few games below 500 now, so they're going to be trying to win that game because they're also trying to make the playoffs still. So it's going to be fine if you're a Jazz fan. And these are, at least this isn't, you're not playing, I don't know, the Kings again and the Clippers. Like, those are games you probably had a real chance to win. And then all of a sudden it does maybe change your calculation on how you approach the end of the season or how ugly the last half of the year has to be if the Jazz do decide that they want to chase that draft pick. So those are kind of flexible games.
Yes.
They don't have to be wins.
Yep.
They don't have to be losses depending on what you want. So you can approach it that way. I think those weren't bad games to get.
You mentioned the win over the Kings. Let's talk about the last week 6 of the season for the Utah Jazz. Started with a 134-117 loss to the Warriors. Followed that, as you mentioned, win over the Sacramento Kings, 128-119. And then yesterday, lost to the Rockets, 129-101. We'll get into the next week, but another chance against the Rockets tonight.
Last night was weird. I'll tell you, and I should say yesterday afternoon, the Jazz lose to the Rockets. And look, they got blown out by the Warriors on the road. Warriors are very good. That was an expected loss, even though the Warriors were pretty shorthanded in the front court. They beat the Kings. Kings are just atrocious. Kings are, I don't really understand how they're as bad as they are. Look, I get, it's the Kings. I get it. But Zach LaVine played pretty well in that game, and Russell Westbrook had a triple-double. It doesn't mean you're going to win a game because Russ has a triple-double. He's had a lot. But there's enough there that they should be more cohesive than they are, and there's just none of that. They just seem like a bunch of independent contractors, so the Jazz won that easily. And then to bounce back and get stomped to the Rockets, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. I don't know, did Jazz fans feel bad after the game other than Keyonte had, maybe the worst game of his career, truthfully. 0 of 6 shooting, 1 trip to the free throw line, missed his free throw, and then committed 8 turnovers, and it really was basically 9 other than the ball ended up going out of bounds in the backcourt, and the Rockets didn't get the ball back. But I've seen the Jazz lose worse than they did to the Rockets, 2 worse teams, and not have the reaction that I saw in the locker room last night. That was a very dejected coaching staff. Will was very frustrated after the game. I thought, maybe I misread it, but he seemed a little frustrated before the game and seemed extremely frustrated to me after the game. And the team was in a weird mood. Kyle Anderson was kind of in a weird mood after the game. He was just talking about, he's saying his Mercury in retrograde. He's like, why couldn't anyone hold on to the ball? What was going on in the universe today that it was such a bizarre game that nobody really played particularly well other than Ace, and Nurkic. Nobody played well, I thought, last night for the Jazz. Lowry's on a real cold streak recently. He's not shooting the ball well. I wrote about it in my article yesterday. You can go see, his numbers dropping from 30 points a game over his first 14 to 20 points a game now over his last 5. And he's only shooting 23% from the three-point line. Like he's really come back to earth. The question is he just missing shots, or is this who Lowry Markkanen is? Evidence says he's not 30-point per game guy. He's also not 23% from the three-point line guy. So where's the middle ground for Lowry, and what does that mean? But I was surprised. I was surprised to see how irked the team was by their loss to the Rockets yesterday, because that's a really good Rockets team, and those teams are designed to destroy teams like the Jazz.
Yes.
And they did.
Two things from the last week that I think are interesting. First, this doesn't require much more, but I think it's worth mentioning. The first 2 games of the week, as you mentioned, really only Ace and Nurk played well last afternoon. But in the first 2 games of the week, Bryce Sensabaugh with 16 points against the Warriors and then 20 points against the Kings. A little bounce back week for him. And then again, Ace Bailey, 21 points against the Warriors. He had didn't have the best game against the Kings. Let me pull up his exact stats. He finished with 5 points, 2 for 5 shooting, but then bounces back against the Rockets. Like you said, probably the best player on the court.
I think it was the best player.
Yeah. And a +2 for the Jazz, the only positive plus minus. He shot 8 for 12, 3 for 5 from 3. The other stats weren't there, but he had an awesome week as well.
His ability last night to score against the Rockets and I tweeted this out last night, it looked like Rutgers Ace. There were some moments there where it's like, oh, I'm just raising up and shooting over you with like absolutely absurd shots. And not all of them. He's still dribbling and coming off that little dribble handoff and getting to the free throw line and hitting that little jumper. And that's almost an automatic shot for him. But attacking Kevin Durant on the perimeter, on the baseline, kind of doing the Jordan fake against the Bulls and like turning around on the baseline and then going back and attacking the rim and like just left Kevin Durant with a roadmap, like looking for where he was going. And like, it's, the Jazz were down 20. It's not like Kevin Durant was trying to lock him down like it was game 7 of the conference finals. But then his jumper that he hit on the baseline where his feet are perpendicular to the basket and he jumps and shoots over the defender, I think it was Jayshawn Tate at the time, it was like, dude, that's a really special shot because while he can do all the other normal stuff, the traditional stuff, which was a big question, would he be willing to do the easy things? He's showing he does and can do them and is now still able to do those really like hard shots that I don't know if anybody else on the Jazz can make. Now, Lowry is 7 feet tall and can shoot over guys, but he's not dribbling, spinning, jumping off of an uneven base, squaring in the air and hitting a shot like that. Like, that's really special. That's a really special shot. And I'm not trying to build up off of one basket too much, but it's because he was 8 of 12 and he still did that. It wasn't like he was 1 of 7 and he took 6 really bad shots and made 1 of them. Like, that was really impressive to me. I thought it really stood out.
And it's like, it isn't just this one game. He's been doing it all year.
Yes.
I can't remember exactly what game it was. It was the game where he had the reverse dunk with like 5 seconds left. Against Minnesota. Before that, like a possession or two before that, he had like a go inside towards the right elbow, but then he spun back and then stepped back on his free foot off of his pivot and hit the mid-range jumper. Like,
he did a reverse step through.
Yes.
Instead of stepping through towards the basket, he stepped away almost like Dirk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know if I've ever really seen a rookie with the, like, shot diet isn't really the word, but just like, lack of a better term, the bag that he has.
No, it's the bag. It's the word that keeps coming up. He just has a huge offensive bag that is relatively untapped.
Yes.
And not because he can't get to it, because he hasn't needed to show it, because he's not getting that many looks. And that becomes the big question for me for the Jazz is if they're going to continue at what are they, 6-13 on the season now?
Yes.
If they're going to continue at this type of pace, at what point is it better to just start tapping into that bag and just say, like, this is what the team is going to look like. This is going to be our best player going forward. How do we, of course, being the team, how do we bring that out of him more, speaking from Will Hardy's perspective? And I have maintained and been steadfast that that's going to happen.
Yes.
I'm just curious, does that happen at the All-Star break? Does that happen after the trade deadline? Does that happen January 1st? Does that happen December 10th? I don't know. I think it's going to happen. Now, Lowry's going to be the number 1 option all year. And Keyonte's going to be the number 2 option all year. That's not changing. But at some point, does Ace need to start getting, 17 shots a game every night? And that's just the expectation, including these isolations of clear out, or we think you have a little bit of a mismatch where your dribble's not going to be exploited. Can you go and beat a guy? And I'm curious how quickly that comes.
Well, and the thing with Ace that I am personally so excited to see this year is not only like shots per game, but like what is what is stopping the Jazz, and what is the negative even of giving him, like, running as many plays for him as you run for Larry Markkinen? You know, coming off of a down screen, or even like setting up a pick and roll with Keyonte George on a team that switches, and then giving him post or high post touches against the guard. You know, like, there's just so much potential, not with Ace, but what he can do within the offense. It's exciting.
I think that can become a political issue that creates headaches in the locker room if they're saying, well, this is about the young guy now, so what I'm doing doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think there was probably a little hesitancy about moving him in the starting lineup for that same reason. And the nice thing for Will Hardy is that he is totally justified to be moved in the starting lineup because he's done nothing but exceed since he's been there. And the more you've given him, the more he's shown he's able to do.
Yeah.
So if the Jazz decide to make that choice, while you may, I guess, have a couple of people get rattled and think like, oh, I thought that was going to be my spot or whatever, who's laid claim to it?
Yeah.
Like Bryce hasn't. Taylor certainly hasn't. Cody Williams certainly hasn't. So who's going to get mad that they're not getting as minutes? Kyle Anderson? Like, Kyle understands at this point what's going on. Speaking of, though, quickly of Cody Williams and Taylor Hendricks, we could mention in news, they did just play 2 games with the Salt Lake City Stars. They got recalled today. Cody Williams, in his 2 games, 16.5 points, 6 rebounds, 2.5 assists. Shot only 40% from the floor, but notably 38% from 3 on 6.5 attempts. So it's not like Cody, who apparently just cannot shoot straight in the NBA, it's not like it's so broken that he can't make threes.
Yeah.
Now, this was 2 games. It's a small sample size, and one of them he shot really well. I think it was 4 of 6, and then did not shoot as well in the second game. But, like, Cody is not going to be a great offensive player in the NBA ever, but he does have to develop 2 things, right? Like, he has to score in transition, and he has to be able to hit open threes when he's wide open. And he's not done it yet because you feel like there's a pressure issue. At least, I guess, in this minor sample size, there's a sign that, like, that could come.
Yeah.
I don't think it's totally out of the picture still. Taylor Hendricks in those same 2 games playing for the Salt Lake City Stars. He's actually played 4 games with them this year. He's averaging 14 points, 6.5 rebounds, 1.3 assists, shooting 41% from the floor and 35% from 3. I don't think anyone would argue that Cody's a better 3-point shooter than Taylor, but has hit them at a higher rate in a couple of small sample size games with the Stars. So worth keeping an eye on. You know, Jazz moving guys down there to try and get their momentum going, their rhythm going. And there could be some other candidates for that. I haven't heard that they would move Walt Clayton down, but if he continues to shoot 27% from 3, maybe he just needs to go and bang a couple of threes and get, he's already played a game there. Maybe he needs to get a couple of games to get that shooting stroke back. Truth is, right now, the Jazz kind of need Walt Clayton. Yeah. So I don't think you can necessarily send him down.
All right, now let's look at the next week for the Jazz. As I mentioned previously, a back-to-back host Houston Rockets again. That's tonight. And then a trip to the East Coast in Brooklyn on Thursday, a back-to-back again in New York on Friday, and then hosting the Oklahoma City Thunder back at Delta Center on Sunday.
Well, the Nets stink,
Yep.
So that's a win. Knicks are very hard to beat at Madison Square Garden. Second half of a back-to-back, that's a loss. Houston played with their food and still beat the Jazz by 30 last night. So I would expect Houston beats them, and no one can beat OKC. The Monstars can't beat the Oklahoma City Thunder right now. So, this looks like another 1-3 week to me.
1-3, I agree.
And then you're talking about a 7-16 team. Again, it's just like, I know Jazz fans were worried about a team that was, I think they were 5-8 at one point. It's like, this team's going to be well below or at or below a 33% win percentage. And we talked about how difficult it is through Christmas. I was talking to some people yesterday around the team, and they were talking about how difficult January is and talking about how difficult February is. And you look down the schedule. Now, this is the case when you're a bad basketball team. Everybody looks daunting because they're all better than you. But, there aren't easy streaks. There isn't anywhere where you can go to January and say, like, oh, there's a potential 3-game winning streak there. It's like, it's at OKC, you come home, you play Dallas, you play Charlotte. Okay, maybe you beat Dallas and Charlotte. And then you're at Cleveland.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're at Chicago, at Dallas, at San Antonio. It's like, you're not going to win 3 of those in a row. So I don't know. We may have seen the Jazz do their most winning already this season. We may have seen the highest win rate for the Jazz so far this season.
I will say, I agree with you that it will be 1-3, but a loss to the Nets would be a good loss for the Jazz. I think no matter what, Brooklyn is going to finish with a worse record with the Jazz when we look at the whole scope of the season. But the Nets did beat the Celtics in Boston. And that was a 33-point Michael Porter Jr. game. So not 100% out of the realm of possibility, but I do agree with you on 1-3.
Yeah.
Okay, one last thing, and then we can go to the break in the mailbag. I wanted to talk to you about some potential Jazz chances at awards this year. First one, not necessarily an award, but Larry Markkinen making his second All-Star appearance with the Jazz. Right now, he is at 27.9 points, 6.3 rebounds, about 46, 35, 90% from the free throw line.
I think it's likely.
Okay.
He has to keep up a pretty high scoring average. He can't do what he's been doing over the last 5 games and average 20 points a game and expect to get there. Because, again, as we're talking, the Jazz are going to be sitting on 13 wins, 12 wins going into the All-Star break. They're not going to be sitting on 25 and 25 with 30 games left to go. And then the question becomes, because of the new format where there are 8 international players that will make the All-Star game, unless they just decide that 12 belong in the top 24, and then they have to add other Americans. One of the issues is that Canada is an international league and has a lot of great Canadian players suddenly playing, including a guy like Zach Edey, who goes off for 35 and 17 or whatever it was last night. Now, Zach Edey's not a better player than Lauri Markkanen, but if Memphis is 500 and Zach Edey's had the breakout season, which also could impact our next conversation, like maybe that gets a little bit more difficult for him. But, the top 4 guys in the league are Shea, Giannis, Jokic, and Luka. They're definitely in.
Yeah.
So that's half the spots. They could get thin quickly, like Franz Wagner gets in. Yep. You know what I mean? Like that's where it gets difficult for Lowry. If they only take 8, I could see Lowry being 9.
Yes.
Over the first 14 games of the season, he was better than Franz. He was obviously one of these guys. But maybe that doesn't end up being the case. I don't know.
I think if the All-Star game was today, he would make it. But it's like, who knows what happens over the next 35 games?
He's got to stay healthy. Yeah, all these things.
So I think there's a good chance. I think right now more than 50% chance, but it's not 100. Next, Keyonte George's most improved player. We talked about this a while back, and you said that most improved players are on winning teams, which is right, but it isn't an overwhelming.
It's not 90%.
Yes, it's basically like 61%. And if I pull this up, 61.5% of most improved players are on winning teams. And there's only been 3 most improved players in the last 15 years on losing teams. That was Lauri Markkanen, Brandon Ingram, and Kevin Love.
Did Jalen Johnson already win most improved player? I don't think so, because Dyson Daniels won it last year.
Yes.
I'm just trying to look around at guys who could be in that conversation for most improved. Jalen Johnson's going to get a big boost because Atlanta's going to skate to the playoffs, it looks like, in the Eastern Conference. And Trae Young's been hurt for a while, and Jalen Johnson's averaging 23, 9, and 7 on a good team, shooting 54% from the floor and 40% from 3. So while Keyonte absolutely deserves to be in this conversation, and I was pretty skeptical of it the first week or so because I've seen Keyonte have big games and not shoot the ball well. And now, outside of what we saw last night, Keyonte's tear has been absurd. It's just fully legitimate to me.
Yes.
And to the point where there are nights I'm leaving Jazz games thinking, are we sure Keyonte's not the best player on the Jazz?
Yeah.
In all honesty, because of all the things he does. And I get it. Lowry was shooting the ball extraordinarily well and was averaging 30 points a game, and that's not something Keyonte's done. But Keyonte's ability to just lace together these absolutely enormous games. Again, before last night, let's go back. I mean, you can go back really as far as you want. Probably I'll go back to the beginning of November. So let's just look at what he did in the month of November. Minus what he did last night because it was so atrocious. I'll see if I can get these stats to load quickly. It's just such a truly significant jump. His worst game, he had a 10-point outing, but otherwise he's just lacing together huge game after huge game. It doesn't look like this is going to load for me. It's just amazing to see what he's able to do.
Yes.
I've been so impressed with who he is as a player, and it's been completely unique to what he was in years past.
And if I look here, so last year he was at 16.8, 3.8 rebounds, 5.6 assists on basically 39, 34, 81. And he's jumped up about 8% from the free throw line. He's a 90% free throw shooter now. He's jumped up almost 5% from the field. He's at 44. It was 39 last year. And we talked about how his three-point shot wasn't falling to start the year. It's coming around. Right now he's at 32.5%. I think it was at 27 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
If he can get that 3-point up to 35%, which is around what he was last year, then all of a sudden you're talking about a 46, 47% shooter from the field. And he absolutely deserves to be in the conversation. I agree with you, though, that if there is someone who has a comparable jump to him, but they're on a better team, they will get the nod.
Here's what Keyonte did in the month of November, sans the last game of the season, or the last game because I don't know if he was sick or if it was Amen Thompson or if it was all of it, but he played probably the worst game of his season. We'll see how he bounces back. Maybe the worst game of his career. But in the month of November, his first 13 games, Keyonte averaged 24.8 points, 6.3 assists, 4.2 rebounds, 1 steal, shot 46% from the floor and 35% from three. It's like it was so complete. It was such an impressive night in and night out that the Jazz can just bank on Keyonte scoring 20 to 29 points, if not, he break 30, I think 3 times in this stretch as well. She's like, he's just going to come out and he's going to be absolutely dynamite. Yeah, he broke 33 times in the month. It's a huge jump. It's such a crucial jump for the Utah Jazz, and I know it's just been the big storyline. And even going back, I told you, I heard the Jazz traded Colin Sexton because of how good Keyonte was playing over the summer. And if that's true, credit Austin Ainge for seeing it in summer. I honestly don't know how you see that in just summer runs that this jump is coming up, but he saw something that made them confident that Keyonte was going to be this good of a player and was the MVP of the offseason. So credit them. That's really good talent evaluation in the offseason for the Jazz. So he's been extraordinarily impressive. So yeah, he will be in the conversation. I'm looking at a guy like Jalen Johnson to win it.
I agree. And then last, Ace Bailey for Rookie of the Year. On the last NBA Rookie Ladder, which was released on November 26th, so about a week ago, he was 8th. And right now he's averaging 10.1 points, 3.4 rebounds, about 46, 36, and 84 shooting splits, which is really solid for a rookie. And then...
Especially because he couldn't shoot. I think he was 1 of 10 in his first 2 games. You know what I mean? We're still at the small enough sample size that, which we are not going to see again, is really going to affect your percentages 19 games into the season. And
talking about that, specifically in November, which sort of cuts out his non-starting games, he averaged 12.1 points on 51.5, 39.3, and 80, so almost a 50-40 80 guy, basically.
The hard part for him is that Con Knippel's averaging 18.5 points a game and 6 rebounds and 3 assists. Con Knippel is a good NBA player today. Not just a good rookie. He's a really good NBA player today. He's on a terrible team, but Ace, 10 points per game last year at this point might have made him the front runner for Rookie of the Year. He's the 9th leading scorer among rookies right now. This is truly an elite rookie class. Con Knippel's awesome. Cooper Flagg's averaging 16.5 points a game. Jeremiah Fears is averaging 15 points a game. VJ's averaging 15 points a game. Dylan Harper's averaging 13 points a game. Cedric Coward is averaging 13 points a game. Derek Queen's at 12 points a game and just is finally hitting his stride. Trey Johnson, who's hurt right now, is averaging 11 points a game. I do think Ace is going to finish around 13, 14 points per game. I just don't know if these other guys behind him who have had such a hot start are just going to be kept getting fed more and more opportunities, are going to see their numbers drop. They may see their numbers continue to climb. So I don't think Ace is going to be Rookie of the Year. I do think he's got a real chance to still be all-rookie first team. Yes. Because I think he's only going to get better.
Yeah, I agree. I see him finishing on all-rookie first team, and I think maybe 3rd behind the 2 Duke guys in Rookie of the Year voting.
That'd be a nice jump for him.
Yeah.
Be curious. Jeremiah Fears playing great. Jeremiah Fears has been maybe the biggest surprise to me. I mean, I didn't think that Con Knippel was going to average 18.5 points a game. But remember Jeremiah Fears, he was so little at Oklahoma and could not shoot a lick. The threes just did not go down at all. Shooting 36% from 3 right now. That's the same number as Ace Bailey. He's hitting them at an extremely high rate, and he's taking more per game. And he's also having to run the show. He's their starting point guard. So really impressive stuff from Jeremiah Fears. Good for him for being the youngest guy in the draft and playing as well as he has. And the Derek Queen has so much heat on him for the draft trade to get him there that he's actually, somewhat living up at least to the expectations.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it for the first half.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get your mailbag. Stick around. More Jazz Notes coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson, Chandler Holt. All right, let's get to the mailbag. You can find us on Twitter, X, Blue Sky, at Ben's Hoops and C Holt Sport. You can also read us at KSLSports.com. I should say C Holt Sports. Not C Holt Sports, C Holt Sports. For Chandler, make sure to follow him. Also, good follow during Jazz games, fun to interact with. So make sure you do that. On Blue Sky, Sammy Paradise says, do you think the Jazz would have gone another direction with the pick they took Walt Clayton with, 19 overall, if they knew that the other 2 guards were going to be playing like they are? I guess my nitpick would be I don't think Isaiah's playing particularly well. He's not playing bad, but we haven't seen a major jump from Isaiah. He played really good that first week and has been pretty so-so since then. He's just kind of doing what Isaiah does. 3-point shot's not there. He just doesn't shoot it at all, which is a potentially fatal flaw. Jeremiah Fears, we were just talking about in the last segment, he knew he came into the league having to shoot threes, and he's shooting threes, and it's going to change his outlook. I don't know how safe Isaiah's job would be if Walt Clayton was shooting better than 27% from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
And that's the weird thing about Walt is I tweeted this out yesterday. Walt took 800 threes in college and knocked down 38% of them. Like, Walt is a good shooter. There's no doubt about it. They're just not falling yet. And I'm not sure why they're not falling yet. Like, he's even good at deep threes. Like, that was something he knocked down in college. Like, NBA, it's not the extra foot and a half back or whatever for the NBA three that's bugging him. He's just not making shots right now. When they do start to fall, I still think he's got a really good chance to make a push for that backup point guard job. Now, that's a switch. I thought he might be the Jazz's starter by midseason. I did not see this jump coming from Keyonte.
Yes. Looking at the draft, though, for specifically players taken after Walt Clayton, first of all, I still have all the confidence in the world that Walt Clayton will be the backup point guard for the Jazz at least at some time, like shooting sticks in the NBA at the end of the day. And he has that. It hasn't been there yet, but it's the
most important thing in the league, and he has it.
Yeah, and it's 17 games into his first year in the NBA, 19 games.
And he's been pretty sporadic in and out of the lineup.
Yes.
They will start to hit. I promise you, they will start to hit.
But it still is an interesting exercise to look at the people behind him. You have Nolan Traore, which I think is a no. Kasparas Yakushonis, Will Riley.
Kasparas has not played in the NBA yet.
Yeah.
Who I told you I might have taken with the lottery pick. So.
Yeah. Will Riley, which was technically the Jazz's pick at 21. Drake Powell, Asa Newell, Nick Clifford, and Jace Richardson. That's up to 25. I think maybe the most interesting one would be Nick Clifford. But
and even then, like, he's on a terrible Kings team. He's averaging 3.8 points per game. Like, I think Walt Clayton's averaging more points per game than he is. Not that it's just that simple, but like, all of these guys are on bad teams. This is the weird thing about this second half of this year's draft was like, it wasn't, he can't break the roster in Houston, or he can't break into the rotation in, Oklahoma City. No, a lot of these guys, like Will Riley went to Washington.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of these guys, Drake Powell was in Brooklyn. I mean, half of Brooklyn's picks were in the second half of the draft here. I get Jace Richardson's not playing in Orlando. They're pretty good, but Nick Clifford's in Sacramento. Like, these teams stink. These teams should all be playing. Danny Wolf should be playing. Danny Wolf is looking a little bit better. He spent a lot of the time at the G League, but like, I don't know, man. I don't know how many of these guys you would absolutely have to have right now over Walt Clayton. Now, Ryan Kalkbrenner has had the best of this group. Ryan Kalkbrenner is 24 years old and he's 7 feet tall. Like, this is who he is. Now, this is fine. He's averaging 9 points and 6 rebounds, and he's starting a lot of games for Charlotte. But, I don't know. I'll just say I don't think the Jazz should be regretting that pick yet.
Yeah,
I really like Maxime Reynaud out of Stanford. We saw him a little bit against the Jazz. He's averaging 6 points, 3.5 rebounds, so he's playing more even than Nick Clifford is. So maybe there. Yeah. Will Richards played good in Golden State. He's played well, so maybe him. But yeah, I don't think so.
I'm with you. Over to X now?
Let's go over to X.
Okay. First up, from Scrabby, says, do you think there's any way the Jazz could get another first-round pick from the 26th draft without trading Lowry, Key, or Walker? And let's add Ace into that as well.
Don't trade Ace Bailey for a late first. Maybe somebody had to have Bryce and you were taken back, or like had to have Walt Clayton Isaiah Collier, and you were taking back a bad contract, I guess conceivably, but like, the last thing the Jazz need is another first-round pick, because again, they've got multiple next year. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the thing. Like, have one this year.
Yes.
Have your top 8 pick. I think they're going to. Everything's trending towards that direction. You don't need another young guy here. Like, next year's already going to be about like Ace Bailey's second year, truly year 2.5 for Taylor Hendricks. Like, he's still clearly not back fully from the injury. Like, he's fun. He's playing around. He's clearly not who he was to open the season last year. Maybe Cody's on the team. I don't know. Flip. Like, you're just so young still that I don't think you need a second first-round draft pick.
Yes.
Conceivably, is it possible? Yeah, you might be able to get one. Do you need one? You simply don't.
Yeah, I agree. Next up from Jazz Time Jones says, thoughts on Stein's article saying the Jazz are more likely to add talent this year than trade Lowry?
I guess I could see that if the Jazz felt like they were getting a deal on somebody.
Yeah.
If there was somebody that they said, hey, like, again, the hypothetical, we've talked about this a little bit. It's like, what if they decide they don't want to pay Walker? What if they've decided, like, that's not a part of our future? Somebody else is going to want Walker, but they're not trying to win either, but they'd be happy to bring him in next year as their starting center of the future, and we take back one of their good pieces now. Maybe. I can see that happening, conceivably, but I don't know. I don't think the Jazz are kicking down anybody's door to trade Lowry again. We'll see if that Godfather offer comes and the Jazz have the guts to say no to it. I'm still not totally convinced that would be the case. Like, I don't know why you would. I mean, again, Lowry's your best player, and you've got 6 wins on the season. Like, He's not Jalen Johnson. Again, like would you say Jalen Johnson's an untradeable player? Like Atlanta should love him, but like the Jazz would rather have Jalen Johnson than Lowry, I would think. Like he plays both sides of the floor, distributes the ball, rebounds really well. Like I don't know, man. I just
younger,
yeah. Like Lowry's a great player, but like what? He's the 30th best player in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like, even this year, he's played the best he's ever played. And it's like, yeah, he's still the 25th best player in the league, 20th best player in the NBA. Like, would you rather have Jaren Jackson or Lowry? Like, it's a real conversation. So, yeah, I could see the Jazz adding talent. I certainly could. I'm more likely to inclined to believe the Jazz just stand pat.
Yeah.
And then trade off a couple of their veterans if those guys have value. Kevin Love's been playing better of late. And, go into next offseason with the intention of getting better and really trying to add talent in the offseason. I could see that.
And here's the thing, though. NBA teams don't have a 10-year plan. Like they have things that are like, okay, this might make sense for us and we can do this now. But like, do you think the Lakers to start 2 years ago were like, okay, we're going to trade Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic this year? You know what I mean? Like that was never a thing on their minds, but then you have an opportunity presented to you. Like similar to the Mavericks offering Luka for Doncic, what if the Hawks offered Jalen Johnson and a pick for Lowry? You're like, okay, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
now our plans are changed, Like there aren't things set in stone for NBA teams. You kind of roll with the punches. Like right now, I assume the Jazz are like, okay, yeah, we're riding this year out. Walker Kessler's injured. We're going to have our top 8 pick. But if something came along that is they see as a really good opportunity, then they would go with it.
Yep. No doubt about it. Yeah, you're in that spot right now. Now I do think it would have to be a really good player to bring in at a really good price if the Jazz were going to sacrifice their top 8 pick, because that's where they're headed right now. The Jazz are right on the borderline of it. The worst thing you could do is give OKC a number 9 overall pick because you won a couple of games with the same roster. Yeah. You would have to get a really good player to come in to change the trajectory of your future to be willing to give up a draft pick that is basically in your palms right now to get there.
Yeah. Next up from Tucker Brady says, will the Jazz consider this season a success if they keep their pick? Will they be happy with pick number 8, or do they really want to try to position themselves to get a top pick like they did last year?
I don't think they're going to position themselves to get a top pick. They're not going to go all out to have the worst record in the NBA. But again, if we are in a spot where we're watching a team that is right there, 5, 6, 7 in the West, or 5, 6, 7 in the overall NBA standings, like make sure you're 5 or 6 so there's zero risk of losing your spot. Yeah. Really, even at 7, if you have the 7th worst record in the NBA, you have an 88% chance of holding on to it. Like, it's not guaranteed. Yeah. The Mavericks won the lottery with a 2% chance, so anything's possible. But I think if you're sitting right there at 6, 7, you're really confident. Oh, yeah. Sorry I said that. Sorry if you had kids in the car and I said that. I didn't mean it that way. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I don't think like there's going to be any crazy second half of the season antics that see them fall to a bottom 3 record. But if it comes to you're the 8th worst team in the league, okay, maybe if we lose like 9 of our last 10 games, then we can guarantee then that would be a situation.
Then they will do that.
Yeah.
And again, the schedule gets really hard. The schedule, there's no real easy games the rest of the way. You're going to play some bad teams. That doesn't mean there's no easy wins the rest of the way, but like I just don't think you're going to rack up 5 and 8 at any point and double your win total.
Yeah. Next up from Mammoth Jazz fan says the Jazz keep saying that they are being very deliberate with what they are having Ace do. Do you feel like they took the same approach with Cody Williams? It seems like Cody was thrown into the deep and now lacks confidence to do anything.
They did not. They did not take that approach with Cody. Now, Cody is nowhere near as good as Ace is. Yeah. And again, I'm probably less out on Cody than a lot of people are. And I get it. I get why Cody's really frustrating. I get why that feels like a pick that is not panning out and would have helped the Jazz advance. But no, the Jazz have been really deliberate with how Ace is playing and what opportunities he has, because I think early on he's shown so much more than Cody has shown at any point. You know, Cody's best game in the NBA would already be like Ace's 6th best game. Yeah. And Cody's been in the NBA for an entire season and Ace has been there for 19 games. So that's I guess the issue there. So no, I think simply put, the Jazz have not been that deliberate. I like what the Jazz have done with Ace. I don't mind that the Jazz haven't just said, here's carte blanche, go do whatever you want, because that's what Rutgers did and you didn't get great results. And I think you could see how he could fall into some of those pitfalls of, oh, well, play-to-play doesn't matter, so I can just do whatever I want. I do think he has quickly shown he recognizes that play-to-play matters. He's got to hustle. He's got to play hard. But he's also talented enough to belong at this level.
Another question about Ace and Cody from Alex Atwood. With Ace needing to learn to dribble and Cody needing to learn to shoot, you're trying to round out incomplete players. Is it just reps or are some things unteachable? And with guys like Cody or Taylor, when do you pull the plug like we did with Ochai, who looks decent in Toronto?
And yeah, the Ochai thing, like I don't think the Jazz need to regret that. Ochai's certainly not turned into like a guy. He's fine. He'll be in the NBA for a while, but I don't think he's a guy. Yeah, some things just need reps, you know. Yeah. I don't think Dante Exum could do either dribble or shoot when he got into the NBA. And I know he's out for the season now and his career might be over. But like when he figured it out in Dallas, all of a sudden he became a very valuable kind of 3-and-D piece and was shooting almost 40%. Like, so you can actually absolutely learn to shoot the three. I don't think Dante was a better shooter than Cody coming into the NBA. I think Cody honestly is a better shooter than Dante coming into the NBA. And that's not saying much, but I believe that Cody could develop that shot one day. And, you know, we've seen a lot of bad players learn how to shoot. So I think Cody can get there. And then, guys learn how to dribble. Yeah. And there's enough examples. Like, again, I talked about the jump shot that we saw Ace hit. And like, he's just a little wide from his body with his dribble. He's really side to side with it. Just bring that in tighter. I think that dribble is going to be just fine. Yeah. Like he's like turning it over in transition, which is the weird thing. It's like he gets a little nervous. He's going so fast and like tries to figure out like his footwork and how he's going to get to the basket, and he ends up turning it over. He does it a lot. That'll get easy, and there's going to be a lot of reps to fix it. And this comparison is one, overused, and two, not completely accurate. But with Kevin Durant, talking about Ace Bailey dribbling, like Kevin Durant also has a very wide dribble, and his solution wasn't necessarily bringing it in, but it's just like he doesn't dribble as much. And it's like just don't dribble. Yeah, it's like maybe one or two dribbles to get to your spot, and like maybe that's what Ace does. He doesn't have to become like a Paul George kind of dribbler from the wing, but it's like, okay, like use your dribbles more wisely. Like it could be either for Ace. One dribble to get your spot, and the nice thing he's shown, he's very capable of getting anywhere he wants on the floor with one or two dribbles. Yeah. Next up from Jesse. A few weeks back, Andy Larson tweeted something about the Jazz not having an NBA caliber center, and Nurkic replied, "Have you ever had an awkward interaction with a player or coach after writing something critical about them?" So yesterday, this happened yesterday to me. It's very funny. I told you it was a weird locker room, and it was very strange, and like Kyle Anderson was kind of talking about how weird everything was, and it was a small locker room. So Kevin Love was in there, had his back turned to the media. He was in normal clothes because he didn't play last night, just sipping an espresso or something. Yeah. He's right next to Keyonte. Keyonte was obviously in a terrible mood because he had maybe the worst game of his career and wasn't feeling well. Kyle Anderson's next to him. Walt Clayton's over there in that corner. Isaiah's over in that corner. And then it, kind of turns, and that's where Ace is and Lauri Markkanen is. And then Nurkic is there. Nurkic's very quiet. Nurk kind of has his back to the media the whole time too. Kyle Anderson's in there, and Kyle and Isaiah are always jawing at each other. But so we're all kind of standing around waiting. Obviously, it's like a tense locker room. Yeah. And Kyle Anderson turns to me and says, "Are you Ben Anderson?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Tell Ace Bailey what you said about him on Twitter." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Tell Ace Bailey what you said he needs to do to opposing defenses on Twitter." I was like, "Okay." I said that Ace Bailey doesn't get to the free throw line because he tries to finish around guys and not go through guys. And I said that. And I said, Ace, that's what I said. I said, you need to start going through defenders and not around them. And then Kyle said, that's what I've been telling him. And then Ace said, man, I've been telling myself that too. And he dapped me up after the game. So I couldn't actually tell, and I still don't totally know, even though Kyle did say, I wasn't trying to start anything. I wasn't trying to be that guy. He absolutely called me out for something he saw me say about another Jazz player that didn't mention him on Twitter. Yeah. So yes, along those lines, it wasn't, I don't know, maybe it was a negative response. I think you could probably take it however you want, other than Kyle after said, like, I wasn't trying to start something or be that guy. Like, he singled me out in a very tense locker room, turned me towards the young star on the team and said, tell him what you said about him on Twitter about what he's doing wrong. Yeah. Which I stand by what he was doing it wrong. Like, you got to go to the free throw line, and you do that by not trying to be more acrobatic. You do the Luka thing and you just jump into people, or the Shea thing, you jump into people. And right now you're not seeing enough free throw attempts from Ace Bailey. And he will get them, and he deserves them. But it's going to come from just being stronger than guys and plowing through them and saying, well, I got fouled. I'm better than this. I'm going to finish this basket. And he's going to have to dunk on a couple of guys, and, it's going to come. But so, yes, along those lines, like, players see your tweets. Players know what you're saying. Coaches know what you're saying. GMs know what you're saying. Executives know what you're saying. I promise you. Yeah. including what you're saying about their teammates.
Yes.
So yes, yesterday Kyle Anderson called me out. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Because other than like media day, I haven't talked to Kyle a whole lot. We haven't had to. He hasn't played a lot. He's been hurt. That was kind of my first interaction with him.
And I mean, like at the end of the day, you were right. Like Ace Bailey, he's not Isaiah Collier or Walker Kessler. He's an 80% free throw shooter, and like he has the tools to get there. So get there.
Yesterday was weird. I'm telling you, my pregame, I asked Will Hardy. I was like, I was trying to ask about Amen Thompson and how do you attack Amen Thompson?
Yeah.
And not him specifically, but like, there are rules for how you attack shot blockers.
Yeah.
Which is you go into their chest, right? You go right up their body, because if you give a shot blocker space, they have time to block your shot. But if you go up their chest, you knock them off their spot. They have less time to react to where the ball is. And I said, one of the rules is you attack a shot blocker's chest. And Will Hardy said, that's a rule? No, it's not a rule. Like, I mean, yeah, actually it is a rule. Like, that's it's an adage. Yeah. Maybe you say it's a cliche or it's a technique, but like, yeah. That's a thing you do. Mm-hmm. And Will Hardy knows that's a thing you do. But even he pushed back of like, that's a rule. Never mind. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. So I don't know. And he wasn't trying to be rude about it. I don't think he knew where I was going with my question.
Yeah.
And then I messed up my question because I said, when you're guarding Amen Thompson, what I meant to say is when you're being guarded by Amen Thompson. And then I finally clarified it. And he gave me a great answer.
Yeah.
And he was honestly very good about it.
Yeah.
So I appreciate Will. Will's always given me very good answers, even when I ask bad questions. But it was just a weird locker room last night. So I thought for Will to kind of do that before the game, and then Kyle did that after the game. It just felt off.
Yes.
I'm just telling you, I'm trying to get across that the locker room felt off a little before the game and a little after the game. And I don't know if that's because it was a Sunday game that was played at 1 p.m. or if there's kind of bigger feelings going on at the Jazz right now. It's why I'm very curious to see what happens tonight against Houston. And then I kind of wonder if the team just needs to get on the road. They've just been at home a lot for the last 3 weeks. Sometimes I think teams need to get away, especially with the holidays, like get the distractions out. Go to New York. New York rules. Yeah. Brooklyn's awesome. Manhattan's awesome. I know they're not going to be there very long because they've got a quick turnaround to come back and play Oklahoma City again next Sunday. But like, I wonder if they need to get away from home a little bit.
All right, last question here from Nadles. Do you believe the Jazz bringing Ace along slowly is a good thing versus just throwing him to the Wolves like other rookies? He clearly has all the talent in the world.
Yes. I think the Jazz are smart.
Yep.
I think the Jazz have probably let the leash go on some of their young guys maybe a little too far, and I wonder if they're recognizing that, like, hey, that didn't benefit us that much. Are they saying that, like, look at how good Keyonte is? Mm-hmm. And now, look, you could argue that letting Keyonte make so many mistakes over the last 2 years got him here.
Yeah.
Or are they having to fix things with Keyonte to reel him back in where they said, oh, we should just never let him get that far off the leash in the first place? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm sure there's two arguments, and I'm sure the Jazz probably don't have a totally correct answer either. Like, how do you know? And Ace is particularly unique because Ace is a unique basketball player. Mm-hmm. Ace is the best prospect the Jazz have drafted probably since Darryl Griffith.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's going to be the best player. I mean, Karl Malone's one of the 20 greatest players of all time. John Stockton's one of the 30 greatest players of all time. Donovan Mitchell's a heck of a player. Rudy Gobert's a heck of a player. But those guys did not come into the league with just the insane tools that Ace has, whether it's the offensive bag or the physical tools or the fact that he's been the number 2 or number 1 player in his class his entire life, like in a good class, not Isaiah Collier breaks out as the number 1 high school class because he can just drive past you. Like, Ace's tools are ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you got to treat him differently. You don't leave your Ferrari in the snow. Like, you got to put your Ferrari in the garage. You got to clean it every time you put it away. You've got to make sure you've got the right oil in the engine and the right gasoline. Like, this is not just put corn syrup in it and let it run. Like, Ace needs to be handled really specifically, and I don't mean delicately, because again, to keep this like car comparison going too, like, you also got to take your Ferrari out and see how fast you can get it going. Yeah. Like, sometimes you have to test it out. You can't just say like, it only comes out on Sundays. Like, you got to let Ace see what Ace can do. Yeah. You got to see how fast you can get that thing going. But that doesn't mean you have to do that as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. But at some point, you're going to have to go out there and really test the limits, because you can only test the limits so far with a guy like, Taylor or Cody Williams. Like, I think as good as they could be, their ceiling it's just not what Ace's is. And Ace's ceiling is pretty absurdly high if you can even like think of what it is.
And it's kind of interesting because specifically looking at Keyonte, I agree. I don't think the Jazz necessarily held him back. I don't think the Jazz are necessarily holding Ace back, but it's like, okay, bring him along slowly. I don't think they did that with Keyonte, but the interesting thing with Keyonte is in year 1, he was the Jazz's point guard. Mm-hmm. Year 2, he both was a 2 guard and he came off the bench. So we sort of had this combination of a bunch of different roles in the NBA, and I think that's benefited him coming into this breakout year 3. with Cody, for example, he started 21 games in year one, but it's like he totally was kind of just thrown into the fire. Like, okay, go out there. What can you do? So it is interesting. And I think what they are doing with Ace is the right thing to do. And it also makes me think that when we reach the new year, I guess, which is a month from today, I think his role will be even bigger than it is right now.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, he's going to be the face of the team. He is. That's where this is headed. He's done nothing to say that it won't be. Like, I think he should be, honestly, again, this might sound crazy, but I think he should be better than Lauri Markkanen.
Yep.
Like, he should be a better player than Keyonte George is. Like, those physical tools that other teams can shut you down. Now, look, Amen Thompson wasn't guarding him last night. And if Amen wanted to take Ace out of the game, you wouldn't have heard Ace's name last night. Like, Amen's that good of a defensive player right now, and Ime Udoka's that good of a coach. There's no reason to take Ace Bailey out of a game. He's not going to beat you yet at this point. But he's also showing that, like, you can try and throw things at him, and he's just going to shoot over you.
Yeah.
It's like, that's where the league is right now. Like, go watch how Minnesota's been winning games recently. It's like, oh, Ant is just better than every player you throw at him, and he shoots over you, and he hits crazy hero shots, and, well, that's the game, I guess. I think that's where you're headed with Ace. I think Keyonte's going to be able to hit some of those as well. And, speaking of, having a Ferrari and wanting to see how fast you can get it going, like, the Jazz did do that with Keyonte, because Keyonte's also a different type of prospect. He's also a little bit more like ball in hand, all-star potential. You want to see how good those guys can be. And the Jazz really did give Keyonte that opportunity. I think they will with Ace as well.
I don't think we have any new questions, but I will add Scrabby, a.k.a. the Great Bambus, who asked the question about getting another first-round pick. He also added or Ace just now. So.
Not listening live. All right, I think that's it. We will be back with you again on Thursday. Thanks as everybody for tuning in. Find us on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ben's Hoops and C Holt Sports. Read us at KSLSports.com. We'll be back with you later this week.